helps it get close to you.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Twisted Locker, your definitive horror podcast. Today we're going to be doing a classic review, and we're going all the way back to 1986, and we've got George Pavlov's Rawhead Rex. Jenks, what are your thoughts on this one?
Fuck right off. We need to win fucking Rawhead Rex. Tell the fucking truth.
You promised me.
No way. Luckily we got a thumbnail to prove it. People are like, that's not...
Oh, I'm in charge of the thumbnails, boy. I've already made a Rawhead Rex thumbnail.
Yeah, Maika Monroe, she's looking rough these days. Go on, tell the truth.
Right, we have got a classic review, but we're only going back to 2014, and we've got David Robert Mitchell's classic It Follows. We thought it would be a great time to do a review on this movie because we've had the great news of a sequel called They Follow. I cannot wait for that sequel. But today we're going to talk about It Follows, starring Maika Monroe. That's about the only actor worth mentioning in this movie. Not to say that no one's good in it, but she's the standout of this movie. Jenks, what are your thoughts on this one?
I love this film. I didn't love it when I first saw it. It was one of those movies that it took me about maybe two, maybe even three turns, three watches to actually fall in love with it. There's plenty of flaws in it.
Do you know sometimes they're the best films?
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes you have to watch a few times.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a song. If you love it straight away, you tend to get sick of it. If it grows on you, then you love it forever. And this film is awesome. It's a pretty straightforward story. She gets cursed after having sex with this guy. There's like a disease, like a curse that passes on through sex. Yeah. And she's getting followed by these horrible entities that can disguise themselves as anything. Old grannies, tall people, and even people she knows. And there is no escape. They're invisible by everybody else. And it's pretty straightforward when you think of it. But it's so unsettling. Maika Monroe is so good in this. She's such a likeable character. She's becoming a bit of a scream queen because she's clocked up in a few horrors now.
Hey, I cannot wait for Long Legs.
Yes, she must have been made about 5 or 6 now. I watched a film called Villains the other day, and she was in that. That's kind of brilliant film.
Yeah, you've obviously got The Guest as well, and The Watcher, which me and you watched together.
Yeah, she's good. I love her. I think she's great. She's got a friend in there called Paul, and his name is I'm gonna try and pronounce this. It's Keir Gilchrist. Fuck him. He's Paul.
I look forward to these. Hey, how much of a pick-me boy is he? Oh my god. He is such a cringy character. He does my head in this film.
I know. Do you know I've realised, right? No, we're struggling with all these names, okay? It's because
you're struggling, not me, you. You're the one struggling.
It's because, right, Hollywood doesn't make stars anymore. You haven't got time to remember their names. You just got to remember their films they're in. Whereas years ago, you could know Tom Hanks and you could know all sorts of things. But these names are all new. Like Jake Ware, Who in it. I had to learn that name. I didn't know by looking at him what his name was.
Yeah, of course.
And this is a classic film. Anyway, I would say this film is so creepy. It's so unsettling. It's got a bit of a Nightmare on Elm Street vibe to it, the first one, where
100%.
there's no escape from this thing. You can't escape. You got to sleep. And in this story, these people are following you wherever you are. There's no escape. There's a horrible scene with a really tall man comes out of nowhere. We included in one of our earlier videos. And what I love about this film, it's in plain sight. You don't need darkness to make it scary. The horror mainly takes place in the day, which I always find that more unsettling because the daylight's usually your escape. There's no escape from this film.
Absolutely.
I love it. It's got a kind of it's set as well in a time of its own. Like you've got like modern technology mixed with like 1980s TVs. And what I love about this film is that you got David Robert Mitchell, the director, who's directed about 3 films, none of which are horror apart from this.
Yeah, I think he was blacklisted for a while after Under the Silver Lake. I read something that like Hollywood kind of pushed him to the side and he's had to kind of like proper claw his way back, which is just nuts.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, he is a proper brilliant horror director. It reminds me a little bit like Stanley Kubrick's Shining. Okay, he's not a horror director, but he made one of the greatest, if not the greatest, horrors ever. He understand. You don't always need a horror director to understand horror. Uh, a lot of the times you do. Like some people are just great at it, like James Wong, but I got to say, this guy really understands horror, and I would highly recommend this film if you haven't seen it. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to agree. I'm a massive fan of this film. I remember it coming out. I remember going to see it in cinema, and as soon as I left, I remember going out and buying the soundtrack on CD because the
yeah,
soundtrack, the score in this movie is so iconic and amazing. It's and underrated as well. No one
yeah.
talks about the score in this movie enough. And I remember buying the soundtrack to this movie, or should I say the score, and just listening to it on headphones, just in my bedroom alone,
Yeah.
coming up with
Like a
raps over the
yeah.
top of it. I went and watched it performed live. No, the first thing I took away from this movie is the score. It's got such an iconic 80s score.
Yeah,
It feels like it was taken straight from the 80s, like it was made for a movie but never used, and he's just
yeah.
taken it and put it in
And
this.
it's slightly off key sometimes, isn't it? It just makes it a bit more unsettling.
Yeah, of course, and it's got a bit of Halloween in there, like the chimes.
Yeah,
Ding, ding. It's such a good soundtrack, but the film as well. Like you said, I was actually going to mention his comparisons to The Shining, with how good he is at building up this dread. And
yeah,
again, like I've said about The Shining, it builds up dread through pacing and cinematography, and that's what this film does really well. Like, not much happens in there, but you're constantly on the edge of your seat,
yeah,
like constantly. And I watched it a couple of times when it came out. I was really into it. And then I didn't watch it for ages, but I rewatched it because it's just been released on 4K. And this film has not aged a day. It's still
no,
creepy, it's still scary, and it's still relevant. And apart from how the film was made and everything that made it great in that sense, it's the story as well. And it's one that's quite polarizing. Like a lot of people complain about, like, oh, it's an STD ghost. When you look at it that way, okay, I see it. You can
yeah,
name it this STD ghost type thing. But what this film does great is what I was saying about the dread in this movie, right? Is you cannot escape this thing, right? And
no,
what's scary about it is you can pass it on to the next person, but if they die, it's coming straight
yeah.
back to you.
I
And
know, it's
how
brilliant.
many people has this gone across? And
Yeah,
that's what's great. Obviously, the guy who gives it to her, he's just not going to sleep with her, and then okay, hopefully she survives. No, he like ties her up and he's like telling her,
yeah,
"This is what you need to do. Please
yeah,
don't die because this thing is going to come back on me." I
yeah.
love that. And what I love as well is it's not some sort of shape shifting or what's the word, like fast traveling ghost. Like
No,
this thing walks. And if you went to Spain, right, that thing's walking to Spain. It may take a couple of years to get to you, but at
yeah.
some point it's going to catch up to you.
I
And
love as well when you see the granny and
oh my
she's
God.
off, she's like faded in the distance, and your eye only starts seeing her when she's about a
Yeah.
hundred meters away. It's such a good scene, you know.
Yeah, there's two I want to say ghost scenes that absolutely kill me, and on my rewatch, I still had that feeling. And what's great about it is the best jump scares, right, are not the ones that make you jump and scream. They're the ones that make you go, "Oh my
Yeah,
God!"
get under your
And
skin.
it's the tall man, but it's not the famous one where he comes through the bedroom door. It's such a quick glimpse, but when they go over that guy's house and they're hiding out in his garden,
Yeah,
and they're all inside the garage, and then you just see a quick glimpse of him going past the window in the garage door. And I remember the first time watching it, like getting that proper like underlying fear,
yeah,
and the same thing happened again. I knew it was coming, and I still get it.
yeah,
It's that and the woman pissing herself with the
yeah.
teeth. Oh my God, it's such
It
a
is,
horrible thing to
and
see.
the camera lingers on her, maybe too long, but it
Yeah.
works in that situation. Sometimes it's like too much of a good thing, but it works really well in
Oh,
that scene.
uh,
100%.
100%. And yeah, just everything about this movie is perfect. No, it's not one I go back to loads because similar to The Shining. It doesn't chuck a lot at you to entertain you. Go and see
Yeah,
The Conjuring if you want that.
yeah,
Now, if you want to see a really well-made, really get under your skin horror movie, It Follows is absolutely top choice. This film
yeah.
is 5 stars easily. I'm a massive fan of this film.
I give it 4 stars. Even though I love it, it's a classic. I still think it's a 4-star movie for me, but I still will rewatch it. And I put it on for my daughter not long ago, and she absolutely loved
Yeah,
it. So I'd recommend it for anybody, any
awesome.
age ish.
If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go watch this movie. I highly
Yeah.
recommend it, guys. Catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.